The History of Vietnam, Part 2. Prehistoric Period, 20,000 BC to the Tru'ng Sisters, 43 AD. The Prehistoric Period. Here is a map of migration of Austroasiatic peoples and Austroasiatic languages from the Red River Delta. Here is a map of proposed Neolithic migration paths into Southeast Asia, with Austronesian peoples from the sea and Austroasiatic peoples from inland Mekong. Here is an ethno-linguistic map of Indochina from around 1970. Here is a pottery fruit tray of the Sai Huyen people. Vietnam is a multi-ethnic country on mainland Southeast Asia and has great ethno-linguistic diversity. Vietnam's demography consists of 54 different ethnicities belonging to 5 major ethno-linguistic families. These are the Austronesian, Austroasiatic, Hmong Mien, Kra Dai, and Sino-Tibetan. Among 54 groups, the majority ethnic group is the Austroasiatic speaking kin, who alone comprise 85.32% of the total population. The rest is made up of 53 other ethnic groups. Vietnam's ethnic mosaic is contributed to by the peopling process in which the various peoples came and settled on territory that constitutes the modern state of Vietnam in many stages, often separated by thousands of years and totally lasted for tens of thousands of years. It is evident that the entire history of Vietnam is an embroidered polyethnic story. Holocene Vietnam began during the late Pleistocene period. Early anatomically modern human settlement in mainland Southeast Asia dated back to 65 Kya, about 65,000 years ago, to 10.5 Kya. They were probably the foremost hunter-gatherers who were eventually called the Hoabinians, a large group that gradually settled across Southeast Asia, probably akin to modern-day Munda people, Mundari-speaking people, and Malaysian Austroasiatics. While the true inhabitants of Vietnam were the Hoabinians, they had, of course, been replaced and absorbed by the East Eurasian-looking populace, and the expansion of preliminary Austroasiatic and Austronesian languages, although linguistic connections are partially interrelated with genetic connections. Later, that trend was continued with the expansion of the Tibeto-Burman and Kra Dai speaking population, and the latest Hmong Mien speaking communities. The results are of modern ethnic groups of Vietnam possess various ratios of genetic mixtures between the Eastern Eurasian and Hoabinian groups. The Cham people, who for over 1,000 years settled in and controlled and civilized present-day central and southern coastal Vietnam from around the 2nd century AD, are of Austronesian origin. The southernmost sector of modern Vietnam, the Mekong Delta and its surroundings was until the 18th century an integral part, yet, of shifting significance of the Austroasiatic Proto-Khmer and Khmer principalities, like Funan, Chenya, the Khmer Empire, and the Khmer Kingdom. Situated on the southeast edge of monsoon Asia, much of ancient Vietnam enjoyed a combination of high rainfall, humidity, heat, favorable winds, and fertile soil. These natural resources combined to generate an unusually prolific growth of rice and other plants, and wildlife. This region's agricultural villages held well over 90% of the population. The high volume of rainy season water required villagers to concentrate their labor in managing floods, transplanting rice, and harvesting. These activities produced a cohesive village life with a religion in which one of the core values was the desire to live in harmony with nature and with other people. The way of life centered in harmony featured many enjoyable aspects that people enjoyed. People, for example, didn't need many material things, enjoyed music and poetry, and tried to live in harmony with nature. Fishing and hunting supplemented the main rice crop. Arrowheads and spears were dipped in poison to kill larger animals, such as elephants. Betel nuts were widely chewed, and the lower classes rarely wore clothing more substantial than a loincloth. Every spring, a fertility festival was held, which featured huge parties and sexual abandon. Since around 2000 BC, stone hand tools and weapons improved extraordinarily in both quantity and variety. After this, Vietnam later became part of the Maritime Jade Road, which existed for 3,000 years between 2000 BC and 1000 AD. Pottery reached a higher level of technique and decoration style. The early farming multilinguistic societies in Vietnam were mainly wet rice orzo cultivators, which became the main staple of their diet. During the later stage of the first half of the second millennium BC, the first appearance of bronze tools took place, despite these tools still being rare. By about 1000 BC, bronze replaced stone for about 40% of edged tools and weapons. Axes and personal ornaments, but also sickles and other agricultural tools. Toward the closure of the Bronze Age, bronze accounted for more than 90% of tools and weapons. And there are exceptionally extravagant graves, the burial places of powerful chieftains, containing hundreds of ritual and personal bronze artifacts, such as musical instruments, bucket-shaped ladles, and ornamental daggers. After 1000 BC, the ancient peoples of Vietnam became skilled farmers as they grew rice and kept buffaloes and pigs. They were also skilled fishermen and bold sailors whose long dugout canoes cruised the eastern sea. Ancient period, the Dong Son culture, and the legend of the Hong Bang Dynasty. Here is a map of southern China, including the Baiyue, about 200 BC. According to a Vietnamese legend, which first appeared in the 14th century book Linh Nam Chich Quai, the tribal chief Loc Tuk, 2919 to 2794 BC, proclaimed himself as King Duong Vuong and founded the state of Shichikoi in 2879 BC. That marks the beginning of the Hong Bang Dynasty period. However, modern historians assume that statehood was only developed in the Red River Delta by the second half of the first millennium BC, 2,000 years later. Kim Duong Vuong was succeeded by Sung Lam about 2825 BC. The next royal dynasty produced 18 monarchs, known as the Hung Kings, who renamed their country Van Lang. The administrative system included offices like military chief, Lac Tuong, paladin, Lao Hao, and mandarin, Bo Chin. Great numbers of metal weapons and tools excavated at various Feng Nguyen culture sites in northern Indochina are associated with the beginning of the Bronze Age in Southeast Asia. Furthermore, the beginning of the Bronze Age has been verified for around 500 BC at Dong Song. Vietnamese historians usually attribute the Dong Song culture with the kingdoms of Van Lang, Au Lac, and the Hong Bang Dynasty. The local Lac Viet community had developed a highly sophisticated industry of quality bronze production, processing, and the manufacturing of tools, weapons, and exquisite bronze drums. Here is an image of a Dong Song drum. Certainly of symbolic value, they were intended to be used for religious or ceremonial purposes. The craftsmen of these objects required refined skills in melting techniques, in the lost wax casting technique, and acquired master skills of composition and execution for the elaborate engravings. The legend of Thang Yong tells of a young man who led the Van Lang kingdom to victory against the An invaders from the north, saved the country, and went straight to heaven. He wore iron armor, rode an armored horse, and wielded an iron sword. The image implies a society of a certain sophistication in metallurgy, as well as An Duong Vuong's legend of the magic crossbow, a weapon that can fire thousands of bolts simultaneously, seems to hint at the extensive use of archery in warfare. There was about 1,000 traditional craft villages in the Hong River Delta, near and around Hanoi. These were represented throughout more than 2,000 years of Vietnamese history as the national, industrial, and economic backbone of the region. Countless, mostly small, family-run manufacturers have, over the centuries, preserved their ethnic ideas by producing highly sophisticated goods. They built temples and dedicated ceremonies and festivals in an unbroken culture of veneration for these legendary popular spirits. The Au Lac Kingdom, 257 to 179 BC. Here is a map of the Ko Loa citadel. Walls in red, water in blue, vegetation in green. By the 3rd century BC, another Viet group, the Au Viet, immigrated from present-day southern China to the Hong River Delta and mixed with the indigenous Van Lang population. In 257 BC, a new kingdom, Au Lac, emerged as the union of the Au Viet and the Lac Viet, with Thuc Phan proclaiming himself as An Duong Vuong, King of An Duong. Some modern Vietnamese believe that Thuc Phan ruled the Au Viet territory, modern-day northernmost Vietnam, western Guangdong, and southern Guangxi province, with its capital in what is today Au Bang province. After assembling an army, he defeated and overthrew the 18th dynasty of the Hung kings, around 258 BC. He then renamed his newly acquired state from Van Lang to Au Lac and established the new capital at Phong Ke in the present-day Phu Tho town in northern Vietnam. There, he tried to build the Co Loa Citadel, Co Loa Tan, the spiritual fortress approximately 10 miles or 16 kilometers north of that new capital. However, records showed that espionage resulted in the downfall of An Duong Vuong. At his capital, Ko Loa, he built many concentric walls around the city for defensive purposes. These walls, together with skilled Au Lac archers, kept the capital safe from invaders. Nanyue, 180 BC to 111 BC. Here is a map of the Nanyue, or Nam Viet Kingdom, 204 BC to 111 BC, an ancient kingdom that consisted of parts of the modern southern Chinese provinces of Guangdong, Guangxi, and Yunnan, as well as northern Vietnam. In 207 BC, the former Qin general Zhao Tuo, Chu Da in Vietnamese, established an independent kingdom in the present-day Guangdong, Guangxi area of China's southern coast. He proclaimed his new kingdom as Nam Viet, or in pinyin, Nanyue, to be ruled by the Zhao dynasty. Zhao Tuo later appointed himself a commandant of central Guangdong, closing the borders and capturing neighboring districts. He titled himself King of Nanyue in 179 BC. He defeated King An Duong Vuong and annexed Au Lac. The period has been given some controversial conclusions by Vietnamese historians, as some consider Zhao's rule as the starting point of the Chinese domination, since Zhao Tuo was a former Qin general. Others consider it still an era of Vietnamese independence, as the Zhao family in Nanyue were assimilated into local culture. They ruled independently of what then constituted the Han Empire. At one point, Zhao Tuo even declared himself emperor, equal to the Han Emperor in the north. Chinese rule, 111 BC to AD 938. First Chinese domination, from 111 BC to AD 40. Here is a map of northern and central Vietnam under the reign of Emperor Wu of Han. In 111 BC, the Han Dynasty invaded Nanyue and established new territories, dividing Vietnam into Giao Chi, Pinyin, Jiaoji, now the Red River Delta, Ku Chan from modern-day Than Hoa to Ha Tin, and Na Nam Pinyin Rinan from modern-day Quang Bin to Hue. While governors and top officials were Chinese, the original Vietnamese nobles Lac Hao and Lac Tuong from the Hong Bang period still managed in some of the highlands. During this period, Buddhism was introduced into Vietnam from India through the Maritime Silk Road, while Taoism and Confucianism spread to Vietnam through the Chinese government. The Tru'ng Sisters Rebellion, 40 to 43 AD. The Tru'ng Sisters, Vietnamese Hai Bai Truong, two ladies named Truong, lived from about 14 to 43 AD. They were Vietnamese military leaders who ruled for 3 years after rebelling in 40 AD against the First Chinese Domination of Vietnam. They are regarded as national heroines of Vietnam. Their names were Truong Trak, Hunan, in Huhan, Chinese pinyin, Zheng Qi, also Cheng Se, and Truong Ni, Chuhan, Chinese pinyin, Zheng Er, and also Cheng Er. Truong Trak was the first woman to be a Vietnamese monarch, as well as the first queen regnant in the history of Vietnam. Lai Chiu Hoang was the last woman to rule Vietnam and was the only empress regnant. She was given the title Queen Truong, Chu Quoc Ngu, or Truong Nu Vuong, Chu Han, and in Dai Viet, Su Ki Tuan Thu. The sisters were born in Jiaoji, Gaoqi, a commandery of the Chinese Han Dynasty in modern-day northern Vietnam. The dates of their births are unknown, but Truong Trak was older than Truong Mi. The exact dates of their deaths are also unknown, but both died around 43 AD, after battling against the punitive expedition force led by Eastern Han General Ma Yuan. The Truong sisters were highly educated under the watchful eyes of their father. They excelled in literature. Both were in line to inherit their father's land and titles. Historical background. The former Qin commander Zhao Tuo, Chu Da in Vietnamese, established the state of Nanyue in 204 BC and had conquered Au Lac in 180 BC, absorbing the Vietnamese kingdom into his own. In 112 BC, Emperor Wu of Han dispatched soldiers against Nanyue, and the kingdom was annexed in 111 BC during the Han conquest of Nanyue. 9 commanderies were established to administer the region, 3 of which were located in what is now northern Vietnam. Revolts of local tribes against the Han began in 40 AD, led by the Truong sisters. The Truong sisters were daughters of a wealthy aristocratic family of Lac ethnicity. The Lac were a confederation of multi-ethnic peoples. Their father had been a Lac lord in My Linh district, which is modern-day My Linh district in Hanoi. Truong Trak's husband was Thi Sach, also known as Shi Chuo, and was also the Lac Lord of Judian, which is modern-day Koi Chau District, Hong Yen Province. Su Ding, the Chinese governor of Jiaoxi Province at the time, is remembered by his cruelty and tyranny. According to the Book of the Later Han, this Sach, the husband, was of fierce temperament, and Su Ding attempted to restrain him with legal procedures, literally, to behead him without trial. Tru'ng Trak pushed her husband to take action, and so she became the central figure in mobilizing the Lac Lords against the Chinese. In March of 40 AD, Tru'ng Trak and her sister Tru'ng Ni led the Lac Viet to rise up in rebellion against the Han. The Book of the Later Han recorded that Tru'ng Trak launched the rebellion to avenge the killing of her husband. It began at the Red River Delta, but soon spread to other Lac and non-Han peoples, from an area stretching from Hepu Commandery to Renan. Chinese settlements were overrun and Su Ding fled. The uprising gained the support of about 65 towns and settlements. Tru'ng Trak was proclaimed as Queen Regnant. The status of Tru'ng Ni was not mentioned in Dai Viet Au Ki Tuong Tu. According to Vietnam Su Lu Ok, Tru'ng Ni jointly reigned as co-king or queen, but according to folk literature, Tru'ng Ni became a vice-king queen. In 42 AD, the Emperor Guangwu of Han commissioned General Ma Yuan to suppress the rebellion with 20,000 troops. The rebellion of the two sisters was defeated in the next year, as Ma Yuan captured and decapitated Tru'ng Trak and Tru'ng Ni, then sent their heads to the Han court in Luoyang. The Song Dynasty poet and calligrapher Huang Tingjian, 1045 to 1105, compared the Tru'ng sisters to Liu Jia, the prime minister of Nanyue, who resisted Emperor Wu's army in 112 BCE. Liu Jia refused a treasonous bribe. Tru'ng Trak raised her shield to resist oppression. The Chinese traditional historical accounts on the Tru'ng sisters are remarkably brief. They are found in several different chapters of the Book of the Later Han, the history for the Eastern Han Dynasty. This is the dynasty that the Tru'ng sisters made their uprising against. Chapter 86 of the book, entitled Biographies of the Southern and Southwestern Barbarians, says, in the 16th year of the Jianwu era, 40 AD, Jiaoxi woman Zheng Qi, Tru'ng Trak, and her younger sister Zheng Er, Tru'ng Ni, rebelled and attacked the commander's strongholds. As for Zheng Qi, she was the daughter of the Luo general of Miling Prefecture. She was married as the wife of Xie Shuo, a man in Zhuyan. They were remarkably heroic and courageous. Su Ding, the administrator of Jiaoxi, restrained them with law. Che became infuriated, rebelled, and attacked. Thus the barbarians in Zhujian, Renan, and Hepu all supported her. All in all, she took 65 strongholds and established herself as queen. Jiaoxi's governor and administrators could not but defend themselves. Emperor Guangwu thus decreed that Changsha, Heppu, and Jiaoji all must furnish chariots and boats, repair roads and bridges, dredge obstructed waterways, and store foods and provisions. In the 18th year, 42 AD, he dispatched wave-subduing general Ma Yuan, towership general Duan Ji, and household general Liu Long, who led over 10,000 troops from Changsha, Guiyang, Lingling, and Kangwu on a punitive expedition. Summer in the next year, 43 AD, in the 4th month, Ma Yuan devastated Jiaoji, beheaded Zheng Che, Zheng Er, and others. The rest all surrendered or scattered. He advanced and attacked the Zhujian's rebel Du Yang, Do Duong, and others, routing and subduing them. He exiled over 300 rebel leaders to Lingling. Thus, the regions beyond the ridge were entirely pacified. Chapter 24 in the biographies of Ma and some of his notable male descendants had a parallel description. Then the Jiaoji woman Zheng Qi and her younger sister Zheng Er rebelled. They attacked, and the commandery was lost. The barbarians in Zhujian, Hunan, Heppu all supported the Zheng sisters. The rebels captured over 60 strongholds beyond the ridge. Qi established herself as queen. Then a sealed decree honored Yuan as wave-building general, assigned Full Marquis Liu Long as his assistant, dispatched towership general Duan Ji, etc., southwards to attack Jiaoji. When the army reached Heppu, Ji fell ill and died. The emperor decreed that Yuan command Zi's soldiers also. Then Yuan's army advanced along the coastline and the mountains in 42 AD, opening a path over thousands of kilometers towards Langbak. In the spring of the 18th year, 40 AD, Yuan's army reached up to Langbo, or Langbak. This area is now called Backnin. They fought with the rebels, routed them, decapitated thousands, and over tens of thousands surrendered. Yuan chased Zheng Qi to the Forbidden Gorge, Kamke, and defeated the rebels many times. The rebels then scattered and fled. The first month of the next year, 43 AD, Zheng Qi and Zheng Er were beheaded, their heads sent to Luoyang. Yuan was appointed as Marquis of Jinxi. His fief contained 3,000 households. Yuan then slaughtered oxen and distilled wines, and rewarded the soldiers and officers for their hard work. Yuan commanded over 2,000 tower ships, big and small, over 20,000 soldiers. He then advanced and attacked the bandit Zheng Qi's remnants, Du Yang, Do Duong, moving from Wugong, Vokong, to Jufeng, Kufeng. He had over 5,000 prisoners beheaded or captured. South of the mountains everywhere was pacified. Yuan reported that Xiyu Prefecture, Taiyu, had 32,000 households. Its boundaries were over thousands of li from the court. He requested that Ziyu Prefecture be divided into 2 prefectures. This was Fengxi, Fengqi, and Wanghai, Vonghai. The request was granted. Yuan immediately seized the momentum, established commanderies and prefectures, repaired the strongholds and ramparts, dredged irrigation canals, and benefited the people. Yuan reported to the emperor that Yue law and Han law differed in more than 10 rules. He then had the laws toward the Yue people sorted out. The old rules were clarified in order to restrain them. From then onwards, the Luo Yue obeyed General Ma's laws. Autumn of the 20th year, 44 AD, Ma Yuan brought the troops back to the capital. The troops had been suffering from miasma and epidemic. 4 to 5 died out of 10. Yuan was given a military carriage. In Han Empire court meetings, he ranked among the 9 ministers. Here are the records of the Jiao province's outer territories, 4th century AD. An older, yet less known account from the now lost records of Jian province's outer territories was quoted in the 6th century commentary on the Water Classic by Northern Wei geographer Li Daoyuan. Late, the son of Zhou Yan's Luo general named Shi, or Thi, asked the daughter of Ming Ling's Luo general named Zheng Qi, Tru'ng Track, to be his wife. She, as a human being, possessed mettle and courage. Alongside Shi, she uprose and rebelled, attacking and devastating Jiao province, as well as reducing the Luo generals into subordination. Zheng Qi made herself queen, starting from Miling Prefecture. She occupied 2 divisions, Jiaoji and Zhujian, and for 2 years taxed the people. Later on, the Han court dispatched a wave-subduing general to lead troops on a punitive expedition. Qi and Shi fled into the Golden Gorge, Kimqi. Ma Yuan hunted them down and captured them after 3 years. Now, from western Shu, there were also troops dispatched on a separate punitive expedition against Qi and Ji, and others, and all those commanderies and prefectures were pacified. Then, magistrates were instituted there. In the 9th month of the 19th year of the Jianwu era, 43 AD, Ma Yuan reported to the emperor that, "I proudly added 12,000 crack troops in Jiaoji to the main army for a total of 20,000 men, as well as 2,000 vessels and vehicles. Ever since entering Jiaoji, now our army has become even stronger." In the 10th month, Yuan went southwards and entered Zhujian. When he reached Votiet Prefecture, the rebel leaders surrendered. He advanced and entered Dufat. The rebel leader surrendered. The rebel leader Chu Ba abandoned the commandery and escaped into the deep jungles and great marshes, where rhinoceroses and elephants gathered, and goats and buffaloes numbered in the thousands. The elephants were seen as in herds of several hundreds. Yuan again divided his troops and dispatched them into Vobian Prefecture, which was the Jiaozhending prefecture during Wang Mang's era. When Ma Yuan reached Kufang, the rebel leader did not surrender. Ma Yuan then had several tens to hundreds beheaded. Jiaozhen was then pacified. Differences. The traditional Chinese accounts differed from Vietnamese traditional accounts in many places. Chinese accounts do not indicate oppression of the Vietnamese population by the Chinese officials and Su Ding's killing of Truong Trac's husband, though Ma Yuan himself confirmed that Su Ding was greedy and cowardly. In the Chinese account, the Tru'ng sisters did not commit suicide. Chinese sources also contradicted accounts in Vietnamese folk history that the Tru'ng sisters' retainers followed their examples and also committed suicide. Vietnamese chronicles. Excerpts from Complete Annals of Dai Viet, 1479 AD. Here is an image of Vietnamese ladies posing as the Tru'ng sisters, national heroines of Vietnam, and are honored with a parade of elephants and floats in Saigon in 1961. The third book of Dai Viet Su Ki Tuan Tu, The Complete Annals of Dai Viet, published in editions between 1272 and 1697, has the following to say about the Tru'ng sisters. In the year Ki Hoel, 39 AD, the administrator of Jiaoji, Su Ding, governed with greed and violence. Queen Truong raised troops and attacked. Queen Truong reigned for 3 years. The queen was remarkably strong and courageous. She expelled Su Ding and established a nation as queen. But also, as a female ruler, she could not accomplish the rebuilding of the nation. Her taboo name was Trac, and her family name was Truong, but was originally Lac. She was the daughter of a Lac general and the child of each of both houses married with each other. Her first year was Can Ti, 40 AD. In the spring, the second month, the queen was bitter because the governor, Su Ding, used the law to restrain her and also harbored a grudge against him for having killed her husband. She, therefore, along with her younger sister Ni, rose and captured the commandery capital. Ding was forced to flee. Nam Hai, Ku Chan, Nat Nam, and Hop Pho all rose in response to her. She was able to take over 65 cities and declare herself queen. Therefore, she began to use the family name of Truong. Her second year was Tan Su-u, 41 AD. In the spring, the second month, there was a solar eclipse on the last day of the lunar month. The Han court, witnessing that as Lady Truong had declared herself queen, captured cities, caused much distress in the border commanderies, thus ordered Truong Sa, Hop Pho, and Yao Chao, then controlled by the Han Dynasty, to prepare wagons and boats, repair the bridges and the roads, dredge the waterways, and store foods and provisions, and also commissioned wave-subduing General Ma Yuan and Fool Marquis Liu Liang as his assistant in order to invade. Her third year was Namdan in 42 AD. In the spring, the first month, Ma advanced, following the coastline and the mountain paths. He went for over 1,000 li and reached Lang Bak, west of Te Nai in Le Than. He battled with the queen, who saw that the enemy's army was large. She herself considered her army to be disorderly and feared that it could not stand. Therefore, she withdrew to Forbidden Gorge, also known as Golden or Jin Gorge. The army also thought that the queen was a woman and could not win, and therefore scattered. The national continuation again ended. Her fourth year was Kui Mao, 43 AD. In the spring, the first month, Queen Tru'ng and her younger sister warred against the Han army. They were abandoned and both were defeated and perished. Ma Yuan chased down the remaining multitude, Do Duong and others. When chased to Kufeng Prefecture, Do Duong and others surrendered. The locals admired and mourned the Tru'ng queens. They erected a temple for worshipping their spirits. The temple is located at the Hat River Commune, Au Lac Prefecture. There is another temple in the old territory of Phim Ngung. Here is a procession of elephants in the Tru'ng Sisters Parade in Saigon in 1957. Li Van Hu, the Tried Dynasty's historian, wrote, Tru'ng Trak, Tru'ng Ni are women. With one single cry, they rallied the commanderies of Ku Chan, Nat Nam, Hop Pho, and 65 strongholds beyond the ridge heeded their call. They established a nation and proclaimed themselves as queens as easily as they're turning over their hands. We can see that we Viets have the potentials to achieve the status of hegemons and monarchs. Regrettably, since after the Tried Dynasty until before Yugo Kuyan, in the span of more than 1,000 years, the men themselves merely hung their heads, wrung their hands, and became vassals and servants to the northern Chinese. Don't they men feel ashamed, considering that the two Tru'ng sisters were women? Alas, they may say they have thrown themselves away. The reign of the Tru'ng queens started in the year of Can Ti and ended in Namdan for a total of 3 years, 40 to 42 AD. Ngo Si Lian, the Complete Annals chief compiler, wrote, Lady Tru'ng was infuriated by the oppressive Han administrator. With a raised arm and one single yell, she almost rebuilt our Viet national continuation. Her heroic mettle during her lifetime not only prompted her nation building and proclamation of queenship, but also, even after she perished, hamper disaster and hinder peril. Whenever disasters like flood or drought happen, no prayers go unanswered. The same for the younger Tru'ng sister, for she, a woman, possessed the gentleman's virtue, and her heroic and courageous spirit between heaven and earth does not deteriorate, even though her body already perished. Couldn't men have nourished that upright and honest spirit? Cultural significance. Here is a statue of the Tru'ng Sisters in Ho Chi Minh City, Saigon. Here is a statue of the Tru'ng Sisters at Shui Tien Park. Nationalism. The Tru'ng Sisters are highly revered in Vietnam, as they led the first resistance movement against the occupying Chinese after 247 years of domination. Many temples are dedicated to them, and a yearly holiday in February to commemorate their deaths is observed by many Vietnamese. A central district in Hanoi, called the Hai Ba Trung District, is named after them, as are numerous large streets in major cities and many schools. Their biographies are mentioned in children's school books. The stories of the Tru'ng Sisters and another famous woman warrior, Lady Trieu, are cited by some historians as hints that Vietnamese society before Sinicization was a matriarchal one, where there are no obstacles for women in assuming leadership roles. Even though the Tru'ng Sisters' revolt against the Chinese was almost 2,000 years ago, its legacy in Vietnam remains. The two sisters are considered to be a national symbol in Vietnam, representing Vietnam's independence. They are often depicted as two women riding two giant war elephants. Many times they are seen leading their followers into battle against the Chinese. The Tru'ng Sisters were more than two sisters that gave their lives up for their country. They are powerful symbols of Vietnamese resistance and freedom. In 1962, during the Vietnam War, Tran Le Truong, Madame Nhu, sister-in-law of South Vietnamese President Ngo Dinh Diem, had a costly statue erected in the capital of Saigon in memory of the Tru'ng Sisters, with the facial features modeled on herself, and also established the Women's Solidarity Movement, a female paramilitary organization, using the sisters as a rallying symbol. In the aftermath of the 1963 overthrow of Ngo Dinh Diem, the statues of the sisters were demolished by jubilant anti-Ngo Dinh Diem rioters. Temples. Temples to the Tru'ng Sisters, or Hai Ba Trung temples, were found from as early as the end of the Third Era of Northern Domination. The best known Hai Ba Trung temple is in Hanoi, near Ho Kiem Lake. The temple was constructed by King Lai An Tong from 1138 to 1176. In 1158, according to tradition, in that year, a devastating drought occurred in the Red River Delta, and the king ordered a Buddhist monk named Cam Thin to conduct a sacrifices rite and pray for rain at the Tru'ng Sisters' temple. It rained the following day, and that saved his kingdom from famine. During one night, the king dreamed and saw the two sisters appearing to him, and they were riding together on an iron horse. When the king awoke, he ordered the temple to be gloriously decorated and performed a sacrifice ritual to the sisters. Later, he directed two other temples to worship the sisters, one of which was destroyed by a river landslide, and one temple which survives today. Other Hai Ba Trung temples are found in the Mei Linh district, Vinh Phuoc province, Phuoc Do district, Ha Thai province, and Huang Ho Tam Street, Binh Thinh District, Ho Chi Minh City, Saigon. Women's status. According to Keith Taylor, a historian, one reason for the defeat is desertion by the rebels because they did not believe they could win under a woman's leadership. The fact that women were in charge was blamed as a reason for the defeat by historical Vietnamese texts, in which the historians ridiculed and mocked men because they did nothing, while mere girls, whom they viewed with revulsion, took up the banner of revolt. The historical poem containing the phrase mere girls, which related the revolt of the Tru'ng Sisters while the men did nothing, was not intended to praise women, nor view war as women's work, as it had been wrongly interpreted. Music. Lu Hu Phuoc wrote the patriotic song Hat Giang Truong Han, Long Hatred on Hat River, between 1942 to 1943, to dedicate to the Tru'ng Sisters. Later, Phuoc revised the lyrics in 1946 to create another song, Hon Tu Si, Soul of the Martyred Soldier, which is often used as a lament for state funerals. And the lyrics still mentioned the Tru'ng Sisters Rebellion.